Imagine finding a ship in the middle of the ocean, its sails still catching the wind, its wheel turning on its own, but not a single human being on board. No captain, no crew, no passengers. Food sits on the table half-eaten as if someone started a meal and simply vanished mid-bite. In one of the cabins, a child's toys are scattered across the floor. The lifeboat is missing, but everything else on the ship is completely intact. No signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing broken. Just silence. This sounds like the opening scene of a horror film, but it actually happened, and the ship's name was the Mary Celeste. Even today, more than a century and a half later, nobody knows for certain what happened aboard that ship on the day everyone disappeared. If you love true mysteries and unsolved cases, stay with me till the end, because some of the theories I'm about to share are so strange that you'll find yourself questioning what really happened out there in the middle of the Atlantic. Let's start from the beginning. The year was 1872. Back then, sea routes were the lifeline of global trade and travel, much like flights are for us today. Large ships crossed the Atlantic Ocean carrying goods and people from one continent to another. The Mary Celeste was one such ship, a brigantine, meaning a two-masted sailing vessel built primarily for carrying cargo. It wasn't an especially large ship, but for its time, it was considered sturdy and dependable. The captain of this ship was Benjamin Briggs, an experienced and well-respected sailor whose family had deep roots in the maritime world. Several of his relatives had been ship captains themselves. Briggs was known as a careful, responsible man who planned meticulously and took his work seriously. On this voyage, he wasn't alone. Traveling with him was his wife, Sarah Briggs, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. This wasn't a pleasure trip. Briggs had decided to bring his family along so they could spend time together, because long sea voyages often kept families apart for months at a stretch. The ship also carried a crew, bringing the total number of people on board to somewhere between 10 and 11, including the captain, his family, and the crew members. All of them were experienced sailors. Nobody green or inexperienced was on that ship. As for cargo, the Mary Celeste was carrying barrels of industrial alcohol, meant for commercial use, not for drinking. The ship was sailing from New York, bound for the Italian port city of Genoa. On the 7th of November, 1872, the Mary Celeste departed New York. Everything appeared completely normal. The weather was fine, the ship was in good condition, and Captain Briggs had written letters to his relatives before departure, expressing confidence about the voyage ahead. These letters later became historically significant because they proved there was no sign of trouble, fear, or danger before the ship set sail. It was, by every account, an ordinary sea voyage beginning like countless others before it. But then something happened that, to this day, nobody has been able to fully explain. On the 4th of December, 1872, another ship named the Dei Gratia was sailing across the Atlantic. Its captain was David Morehouse, who, by coincidence, actually knew Benjamin Briggs personally. The two men had crossed paths before and were acquainted with each other. The crew of the Dei Gratia spotted a ship in the distance behaving strangely. Its sails weren't properly set, some were torn, and the vessel was drifting without any clear direction, as though nobody were steering it at all. When the Dei Gratia's crew got closer, they signaled with flags but received no response. After waiting for some time with no answer, Morehouse sent 2 of his men across to investigate the mysterious vessel. What they found when they climbed aboard the Mary Celeste remains, to this day, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the sea. There wasn't a single person on board, completely empty, and yet the ship was nowhere near sinking. The cargo was still there. The barrels of alcohol were still in place, though a handful had leaked or emptied out, a detail that later fueled considerable debate. The captain's cabin was searched, and his belongings, clothes, and personal items were all found undisturbed. Sarah Briggs's belongings were still there too, and little Sophia's toys lay exactly where she left them, as if she had just stepped away moments earlier. In the galley, food was found prepared, as though someone had been cooking or about to eat. Some accounts claim a cup of tea was found still warm, although this specific detail was likely exaggerated over the years and isn't confirmed by the actual historical record. What is confirmed, however, is that every trace of daily life was present inside that ship. Life itself was simply gone. The strangest detail of all was that only one lifeboat was missing. A rope was found tied to the side of the ship, as though someone had climbed into the lifeboat in a hurry and tied it to the main vessel, perhaps hoping to return later. The captain's navigation log was also recovered, and its final entry was dated 5 days before the ship was found. Even that entry contained nothing alarming or unusual. Everything read like an ordinary day at sea, right up until the silence began. The ship's sails were slightly torn, some of the rigging was damaged, but overall the vessel was still seaworthy, meaning it was in no danger of sinking. This meant the crew had abandoned ship for some reason we still don't understand, because if the ship itself had been sinking, their panic would at least make sense. But the ship was, for all practical purposes, fine. After this discovery, the crew of the Dei Gratia made the decision to sail the Mary Celeste themselves to the nearest port. They brought it to Gibraltar, where an official inquiry was launched, an inquiry so lengthy and detailed that historians still study its records today. During the investigation, a number of theories surfaced, some grounded in reason, others bordering on the bizarre. Let's walk through each of them, one at a time, and examine what people believed happened, both at the time and in the years since. The most widely discussed theory, then and now, involves alcohol fumes. The alcohol being transported was industrial grade, and specifically a type known to be highly volatile, meaning it evaporates easily and releases fumes. Some experts believe that fumes had built up inside the ship's cargo hold. If Captain Briggs detected this smell, or heard some kind of pressure-building sound from below deck, he may have feared the ship was about to explode. Sailors of that era understood that alcohol fumes could be dangerous, especially if ignited by even a small spark. According to this theory, Briggs, in a state of emergency, ordered everyone into the lifeboat. Believing the ship was on the verge of exploding, they lowered the lifeboat, tied it to the ship with rope, and planned to wait a safe distance away to see whether the danger passed. But then, perhaps the weather turned, or the rope snapped, or a sudden gust of wind struck, and the lifeboat became separated from the ship. The Mary Celeste drifted off on its own, while the people in the lifeboat, without navigation tools or a larger vessel to guide them, were left stranded in the open ocean. From there, no trace of them was ever found. They likely drowned or met some other fate entirely. This theory feels particularly plausible because the cargo hatch found open aboard the ship suggested someone had opened or inspected it in a hurry, right before the crew abandoned ship. However, the problem is that no investigator ever found solid physical evidence of an explosion, nor were there burn marks or structural damage suggesting one had actually occurred, or was about to. So this theory remains possible, but far from proven. The second major theory involves piracy. During that era, piracy was a genuine threat in the Atlantic, even though it wasn't as widespread as it had been in earlier centuries. Some believed pirates had boarded the Mary Celeste, either killing or kidnapping everyone aboard, then abandoning the ship after taking what they wanted. But this theory has serious weaknesses. If pirates had been involved, they likely would have stolen the ship's valuables. Yet when the Mary Celeste was discovered, the captain's money, his wife's jewelry, and the crew's personal belongings were all still on board, untouched. Nothing of value appeared to be missing. If this had truly been an act of piracy, leaving behind so many valuables would be highly unusual, since pirates typically prioritize exactly that kind of loot. For this reason, the piracy theory is generally considered weak, though it hasn't been entirely ruled out by historians. The third theory involves mutiny, the idea that the crew rose up against Captain Briggs. According to this version of events, crew members killed Briggs and his family or threw them overboard, then fled in the lifeboat themselves. But this theory also lacks strong support because there were no signs of violence anywhere on the ship. No blood, no signs of struggle, nothing broken or disturbed. If a mutiny had genuinely taken place, some evidence of a physical confrontation would almost certainly have been left behind. Because of this, the mutiny theory is also considered relatively weak by most researchers. A fourth theory leans into more unusual territory, with some believing a sea monster or a giant wave swept everyone into the ocean. Others, particularly sailors of that era, pointed to waterspouts, essentially tornadoes that form over open water, as a possible cause. It's conceivable that a waterspout passed close to the ship and created enough pressure or suction that Captain Briggs believed the vessel was sinking, prompting him to order an emergency evacuation into the lifeboat. But again, this remains speculation without any concrete supporting evidence. There's another fascinating angle worth mentioning, one that became famous years later when the celebrated author Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, was inspired by the Mary Celeste story to write a fictional short story of his own. In it, he added numerous dramatic embellishments, including fabricated details about bloodstains and supernatural curses aboard the ship. This story became so popular that many people began mistaking fiction for historical fact. Even today, countless websites and videos repeat these same fictional details as though they were true, when in reality they originated entirely from a novelist's imagination. This is precisely why the story of the Mary Celeste has become so exaggerated over time, with fact and fiction blending together until they're difficult to separate. Now let's talk about something equally important: the suspicious questions raised during the actual investigation. The Gibraltar inquiry was led by an attorney general named Frederick Solly Flood, a man known for his suspicious and somewhat theatrical temperament. From the very beginning, Flood was convinced that foul play, meaning a deliberate crime, had occurred. He even suspected the crew of the Dei Gratia, theorizing that they may have harmed the Mary Celeste's crew themselves in order to claim a larger salvage reward, which was money paid to anyone who rescued and returned a lost or abandoned ship. Flood pointed to certain cuts and marks found in the cargo hold, claiming they might be bloodstains that had been deliberately cleaned away. But when experts actually tested these marks, they discovered they weren't blood at all. They were simply ordinary wear and tear on the ship's wood, the kind that naturally occurs during long voyages at sea. This finding effectively dismantled Flood's theory. The investigation dragged on for months. In the end, no crime or foul play was ever proven. Officially, the case was closed as an unsolved mystery, meaning nobody was ever formally held responsible and nobody was ever punished, simply because no crime could actually be established. The crew of the Dei Gratia eventually received some salvage money, but far less than they would normally have been entitled to, because the inquiry had cast suspicion on them throughout the process. It was a frustrating outcome for men who had genuinely tried to save a ship and its cargo, only to be treated as potential suspects for their trouble. So the real question remains: what actually happened to Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew? Where did they go? The theory still most widely accepted today is a refined version of the alcohol fumes explanation. Modern researchers suggest that Briggs may have detected pressure building in the cargo hold, something that wasn't actually dangerous, but which he treated with extreme caution regardless. He may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat as a precaution, believing it would be temporary, planning to return once the pressure subsided. But then, due to weather conditions or ocean currents, the ship and the lifeboat became separated. Without navigation tools and without another vessel nearby to help, the lifeboat drifted through open ocean, and eventually, everyone aboard likely perished from hunger, thirst, or drowning. This theory tends to feel the most plausible because it aligns with what we know of Briggs's character: a cautious, responsible man who took his family's safety extremely seriously. If he genuinely believed the ship was in danger, his first instinct would naturally have been to move everyone to safety, even if that safety turned out to be temporary and ultimately fatal. But even this remains just a theory. What actually happened remains unknown. No lifeboat, no bodies, no surviving crew member was ever found. No wreckage was ever discovered to confirm the lifeboat had sunk. Everyone, along with their lifeboat, vanished completely, as though they had never existed at all. What happened to the Mary Celeste afterward is its own strange footnote to the story. The ship was returned to service and continued sailing for several more years, but its reputation had been irreversibly damaged. Sailors began to consider it cursed, and many captains and crews were reluctant to work aboard it. The ship changed hands multiple times, and with nearly every new owner came a fresh string of strange incidents, minor accidents, financial losses, and persistent bad luck. Finally, in 1885, the ship's owner at the time deliberately wrecked it on a reef in an attempt to collect insurance money, an act of fraud that was eventually uncovered. In this way, the Mary Celeste story ended in controversy just as it began, with mystery and misfortune following the ship from its first voyage to its very last. Today, more than a century and a half later, the Mary Celeste remains one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in the world. Scientists, historians, and researchers continue studying the case, examining it from new angles, revisiting old documents, always hoping some overlooked clue might finally surface. But to this day, no definitive answer has ever been found. And that, honestly, is what makes this story so endlessly fascinating. There's no body, no suicide note, no ransom demand, no clear crime scene. Just an empty ship, filled with every trace of everyday life, yet completely devoid of the people who lived it. It's a stark reminder of how vast and unpredictable the ocean truly is, and how, no matter how carefully we prepare, nature can still leave us utterly powerless. Some believe Captain Briggs made the right call given what he knew at the time, but fate simply didn't cooperate. Others believe there's an entirely different explanation we still haven't considered. And some go so far as to say we may never know the truth, because the only people who ever knew what really happened vanished right along with it. The story of the Mary Celeste also teaches us something broader, that history is full of events we may never fully understand. Every theory raises new questions, and every answer seems to open the door to new mysteries. Perhaps that's exactly why, even after all these years, people are still drawn to this story, because human beings have always been fascinated by unsolved mysteries, especially real ones, not fictional tales dressed up to look true. If you imagine yourself standing on that ship, the moment you realize the entire crew has vanished, the cargo untouched, food still sitting on the table, but not a single soul in sight, it's enough to send a chill down your spine. Perhaps that's exactly what makes the Mary Celeste more than just a page in a history book. It's the kind of mystery that lingers in your mind long after you've heard it. To this day, no museum, no historian, no researcher has managed to solve this case with absolute certainty. Every generation approaches it with new tools, new scientific methods, new perspectives, and yet the same old question always remains. What actually happened to those people that day? Perhaps we'll never know. And perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all, that some questions never get answered. If you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more true stories about real-life mysteries and unsolved cases like this one, let me know in the comments. What's your theory about what really happened aboard that ship? Share your thoughts down below, because everyone sees a mystery like this a little differently. And who knows, your theory might turn out to be just as compelling as any of the ones we covered today. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another mysterious, unsolved story like this one. I'll see you in the next video with another mystery, another story waiting to be told. Until then, take care of yourself and never stop staying curious.